Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at an incredibly useful spell in AD&D, Invisibility. We're going to look at the spell itself out of the Player's Handbook, and then some items that give invisibility out of the Dungeon Master's Guide. This will not be every single item in the game that gives invisibility. It's going to be a general overview of the spell, and then the magic items, Dust of Disappearance, Ring of Invisibility, that grant a similar power. I'm going to discuss how we do invisibility in my game. At our table, invisibility is not an illusion or a phantasm, it's actual invisibility. And I'm going to go into a little conversation about that simply because we like invisibility and we wanted it to be a little something more than what's written in the books. Also, I want to remind everybody I'm still doing a subscription drive. Hey, come on in. We talk about games here a lot. Everybody who's subscribed already, thank you. My patrons, thank you very much. My patrons, rather, thank you very much. I'm still working on Patreon as well. Again, I'm looking for feedback on any kind of reward I could offer, anything like that. So, give me some information. And that's it. That's the end of the spiel. Today we're going to take a look from the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide at an excellent spell, Invisibility. How'd you like my high-end special effects there? Ha! Marvel movies. Look out, I'm coming for you. Anyway, we're at the Player's Handbook, and we're going to take a look at the second level MU spell, Invisibility. Second level, you say? Why, you're only a third level MU when you gain access to this. That's exactly right. This is one of the best spells that you can get at low levels. Blow that up a little bit. So invisibility, level 2, the range is touch, which means you can cast it on yourself or others. 2-segment casting time. And the area of effect, of course, the creature touched, and no saving throw. And this spell causes the recipient to vanish from sight and not be detectable by normal vision or even infravision. Of course, the invisible creature is not magically silenced. With respects to, whoops, let me tilt that up a little bit. With respect to noise is normal to it. Spell remains in effect until it's magically broken or dispelled, or the magic user or other recipient. So if I am a fighter, the magic user is turned invisible. The other recipient, I can cancel it, or until he, she, or it attacks any creature. Thus, the spellcaster or recipient could open doors, talk, eat, climb stairs, etc. But if any form of attack is made, the invisible creature immediately becomes visible, although this will allow you to attack first and by surprise. Even the allies of the spell recipient cannot see the invisible creature, his or her gear, unless these allies can normally see invisible things or employ magic to do so. And then the last part is, note that highly intelligent creatures with 10 or more hit dice or levels of experience, or the equivalent intelligence dice levels, have a chance to automatically detect invisible objects. And the material component for this is an eyelash and a bit of gum arabic, the former encased in the latter. So you stick the eyelash in the gum arabic. Also, I want to point out that it says here it's an illusion or a phantasm. You're actually not invisible. You are making everyone think you're invisible. We made a few changes to this. In the Dungeon Master's Guide, there's a big section on invisibility that goes into high intelligence, high hit dice creatures being able to basically just ignore it. In Deities and Demigods, it says creatures of a certain intelligence ignore illusions of first, second, third, fourth, etc. based on intelligence. Well, wait a minute. What good is invisibility? Most really good stories involve some form of invisibility. Lord of the Rings relies highly on it. Wouldn't have been much of a conversation with Smaug and the Hobbit if Bilbo wasn't invisible while he was having the conversation. So we felt that the spirit of the ring was that you really were invisible rather than, the spirit of the power, the invisibility, was more that you actually did turn invisible, a la the Invisible Woman from the Fantastic Four, as opposed to just having an illusion of invisibility. So we said, yes, it's really, you are really invisible. And that's actually served us very well over time. It's never been much of an issue. And I know if you're invisible, one of the problems is the light can't reflect off your eyes, therefore you're blind. I get that. It's magic. That's the answer to most everything. It's magic. So somehow, some way you can still see, but the invisibility works. I really enjoy invisibility in the campaign, and the fact that you can get it as low as third level can be very potent. I also want to point out that there's no real time limit on this. It's not a duration spell. It's an action spell. You can drop it when you want, whether you cast it or someone cast it upon you. You are the recipient of the spell, can drop it whenever you want, or it's dropped whenever you attack anyone. So there's some interesting things to unpack there. I had a character very early in my D&D career who had a sword that had a power to give him invisibility once a day. So I would turn invisible the night before we went to a dungeon. Then I'd be invisible when we entered the dungeon, and then when I attacked something, I'd become visible, but then I still had one invisibility for the day. It was fun, and it made a lot of fun role-playing because he was invisible while they were traveling to the dungeon. They weren't always certain where the heck the guy was. And I pulled a few pranks and things like that, and they'd call for me and I wouldn't answer and just kind of giving them a hard time. But it was a fun way to get around the fact that I only had once a day. I was still only once a day, but I was using it because there was no time limit. Similarly, a magic user could cast invisibility on himself or on someone else the night before an adventure, and then rememorize the spell and have it again. So a couple of different ways you can use it. The other thing I want to take a quick look at are there's two other spells I'm going to take a look at out of here. One is an 8th level spell, Mass Invisibility. Where did she go? I'm sorry, 7th level spell. My bad. 7th level spell, Mass Invisibility. And the area of effect is special. And it is invisibility, 7-segment casting time. This is the same as the invisibility spell, except that it can hide creatures in a 30 by 30 foot area, up to 300 to 400 man-sized, 30 to 40 giants, or 6 to 8 large dragons. That is tremendously useful, especially if you play battle system. We do. I have seen mass invisibility used very well in the battle system game. By the way, battle system, we don't adhere to a lot of spell restrictions that are inherent in that game. In other words, we will allow some spells like that to exist. Another spell I want to take a quick look at out of the player's handbook is Improved Invisibility. Improved Invisibility is invisibility, but a little bit better. It's a 4th level spell, and it's still an illusion / phantasm, according to the book. Area of effect is, the range is touch. Area of effect is 1 creature touched, and it lasts 4 rounds plus 1 round per level. Casting time is 4 segments. Well, what good is that? It's a limited duration. It's a time limit duration, but the spell is similar to invisibility, but the recipient is able to attack either by missile discharge, melee combat, or spellcasting and remain unseen. Note, however, there are sometimes telltale traces, a shimmering, so that the observant opponent can attack at a -4 to hit, and all saves are made at +4. Improved Invisibility is a great spell and a great reason for somebody to play an illusionist. I'm going to take a look at the illusionist class sometime down the line. I'm currently running. One of my players is playing a ranger illusionist, and I've had an opportunity to kind of refresh myself on how tough it can be for a DM to actually DM an illusionist. So we're going to take a look at that down the line. Okay, so there we have it out of the player's handbook. Now we're going to take a look at invisibility items. These are going to come from the DMG. So a couple of the items that give invisibility, of course, are the Ring of Invisibility. One of the earliest things. There is a Potion of Invisibility, and there is a Ring of Invisibility. The Ring of Invisibility, be careful. That is a deceptively powerful magic item. Because, here we go, the Ring of Invisibility. I'm going to take a better look at it. The Ring of Invisibility is able to be, the wearers become invisible at will instantly. Non-visible state is exactly the same as the magic user invisibility spell. And 10% of these rings have inaudibility as well, which means you are effectively silent while you are invisible, and then speaking breaks the silence. I have given out one with an inaudibility. I even gave out one that masked scent. The reason that the Ring of Invisibility is so powerful is it's effectively unlimited uses. You could go ahead, turn invisible, attack somebody. You drop them. The room is secured. You're going to go to the next room. Before you go to the next room, you just turn invisible again. You have a player who's going to be able to be invisible through the bulk of your dungeon. You've got to be ready for that as a DM. It can be a real problem for you. You can find yourself kind of unable to deal with some of the things because you have an invisible creature in there throughout. I generally would not give a ring of invisibility till 5th or 6th level. And even then, I'd be cautious because, as I said, in our game, you are actually invisible. It's not an illusion or a phantasm. You can be detected if it doesn't have the inaudibility. Of course, you can be heard. You can be detected by scent. We also have, stolen from 3rd edition, terrible, good idea is a good idea. We have tremor sense in our campaign. Tremor sense is anything that walks on the ground, creates vibrations as they walk. No matter how silently you walk, you still do. So any creature that's of the ground, like an earth elemental, a Zorn, something like that, if they have tremor sense, they can see you whether you're visible or not. Therefore, the invisibility is useless against them. So you've got to be careful as the game master handing this out because you have a limited number of creatures that are going to be, quote, immune to it, unquote. And you really want to be cautious with that. And in conjunction with that, there are a few other things that do give invisibility. One of the interesting things I had forgotten is the cursed item, Ring of Weakness. A Ring of Weakness, once you hit 3 in both your Constitution and your Strength, as the ring drains you down, you will become invisible. The ring will also make the wearer invisible at will. So you can become invisible with this, but you double the rate of point loss. I think this is a nod too to the One Ring, to the way it had debilitating effects on whoever wore the ring, especially if they used the invisibility. So kind of funny. I had not read a Ring of Weakness in many, many moons, and I came across it as one of the items that would give invisibility, and I kind of enjoyed seeing it here. You can also have a Ring of Contrariness. One of the powers of the Ring of Contrariness is that it can be give invisibility. Ring of Contrariness, of course, is a cursed magic item, which can give you flying, invisibility, levitation, shocking grasp once per round, spell turning, or strength of 18 double aught. Interesting that the Ring of Contrariness also can convey invisibility. Of course, a Ring of Air Elemental Command right here can also give invisibility. There are a number of things in the game that do give it. You want to be careful. Ring of Air Elemental Command lets you fly, and you're invisible. There goes your whole tremor sense thing, because if you're not walking on the ground, something with tremor sense can't find you. Or they can see you, but they can't sense your vibrations. So just a few things to take a look at. There, the Staff of the Magi also turns you invisible. All right, there. And there's a lot of different ways to get it in the game. And I felt, as a game master, and a lot of my players agreed, a lot of the dungeon masters that I was gaming with at the time, I had been in the part of that club that I had talked about before on the channel many times, and we all just kind of sat down. We used to do a regular DMs meeting about once a month. We'd go to the one guy's house, and we'd all sit around, and as many of us as could attend it would, and we'd say, okay, what do we need to make club standard and that kind of thing. And one of the things that came up was invisibility. And between what I was doing with my own group outside of the club and the club meeting, the general consensus was you needed to be actual invisibility. It couldn't just be an illusion, because there are too many ways around an illusion. The other problem I had with invisibility being an illusion was the players would decide, oh, the heck with this. Every time I walk in a room, I'm going to disbelieve. I'm going to believe that there's something invisible in the room. That was not a great move. It was kind of a power gamer move I wasn't crazy about. And that was the other reason I wanted to get rid of it as an illusion. One other magic item I do want to touch on, that I nearly missed, is one of my favorites, Dust of Disappearance. What the heck is Dust of Disappearance, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. You probably know. Dust resembles that of Dust of Appearance, which I'll talk about in a moment. Typically found stored in the same manner and quantity. All things touched by it reflect and bend light of all sorts, infrared and ultraviolet included, so as to become invisible to sight or virtually any other means of normal detection, or even magical means such as detect invisibility spells, but not Dust of Appearance. Invisibility bestowed by the dust lasts for 2 to 20 turns, and then there are different ways to sprinkle it. Attack while invisible is possible, always by surprise, because the opponent can't see you. And again, because it's a duration, the Dust of Disappearance actually works just like the improved invisibility, the 4th level MU, or illusionist spell. Spells attacking while using the Dust of Disappearance will not obviate the invisibility, won't negate it. So that's a great thing. And it's nice because it's limited to how much you can dust down, how many times you can use it. So it will make players limit themselves, but it also has a pretty long duration, anywhere between 11 to 20 turns, or last 2 to 20 turns. 11 to 20 if sprinkled carefully. That's a long time. So now we go to dust of appearance. This fine powder appears much like any other dust unless careful examination is conducted. Later will reveal that is like metal dust, but very fine and very light. One handful of this substance flung into the air will coat all objects, making them visible, even if they are invisible, out of phase, astral, or ethereal. Note that the dust will also reveal mirror images and projected images for what they are, and it likewise negates the effects of cloaks of displacement or elven kind, or robes of blending. Appearance lasts for 2 to 20 turns. It's typically in small silver packets or hollow bone tubes that you can blow out of. Packet will be shaken out to cover an area of 10-foot radius from the user. Tube can be blown in a cone shape. It'll be 1 foot wide at the start, 15 at the end, and 20 foot long. And then you have 5 to 50 of these when you find it as a magic item. So dust of appearance is really good, and obviously the bane of a lot of different ways to make yourself look like you're not there. One fun thing to do if you got somebody who has dust of appearance is I like to mess with them, and it's better for more nervous players, is you simply have them hear a strange noise in the room. You hear a creak, or they get nervous and they fling the dust of appearance in there, and there's nothing there. It was just a creak. You open the door and something creaked, and it sounded like it came from a far corner. I won't do this a ton, but I do it, and I have some fun with it, and I like to use up dust of appearance that way. So that's it. That's really all I've got to say about invisibility. I do want to mention that there is an excellent Dragon article from Dragon number 105 about invisibility. I may do that as a follow-up to this discussion of invisibility, because I know that there were a lot of really good points in that article. I have not read that article in a few years, so I'm going to take a look at it. And if there's enough meat on the bone, I'll include it in a future episode. But just be aware that it's a really good article about invisibility in D&D. And if I remember correctly, that also recommended just not making it an illusion, making it real invisibility. We were doing it already before that article came out, but it made me feel good. So that's all I've got to say today from page 121. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed what you heard and saw. Tell your friends, and I'll see you next time on page 121.